Uh, Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Zawicki, um, it seems to me that a lot of the innovations in fintech are designed, in many cases, to provide a service to people who seem to be mostly left out of existing financial products, or at least with respect to credit. And it's disruptive to the incumbent players, but it creates whole new opportunities for these consumers. So, could you just share for us what do you think is the best way to think about regulating? Take the BNPL, or for that matter, the earned wage access. How should we think about going about the regulation so that we don't stifle the innovation of these products or the next generation that we haven't thought of yet?
Thank you for that question, which I think is the big question on the table here. And I first want to agree and associate myself with your observation, which is that I think the great promise of fintech is with respect to traditionally underserved consumers, which is, again, the market works pretty well for middle class consumers, upper middle class consumers. We have plenty of options, high quality options, and the like. But it's always been this problem of serving underserved consumers, and the real problem has always been the cost. It's very costly to make small loans. There's a lot of fixed cost involved in making a loan, and fintech potentially unlocks that by providing low cost options, slick, kind of transparent, competitive options that don't have a lot of overhead and the like. And so what my big concern is taking regulations, a regulatory structure that's very archaic, that really dates back to the 1970s, which is a world of sort of pen and paper, maybe early prototype computers, and trying to take that regulatory scheme, which is already pretty creaky around the edges and doesn't work very well and doesn't fit a lot of products very well, and trying to pose that on the new fintech economy, I think could really be a problem, which is it's not really designed for that. Bad regulation can have costs with very few offsetting benefits. And I think the real issue we should be focusing on is ensuring that we are protecting consumers. So sometimes that means we should be doing more aggressive enforcement and less reliance on information, promoting competition, promoting innovation, and the like.
And just to be clear, so are you aware of data that suggests that the consumers who actually use BNPL facilities tend to be younger, lower income, maybe have a history of credit problems? Are they in fact the people who have a more difficult time obtaining credit?
Absolutely. They seem to be the people who are relying on it the most. There's some middle class people who are kind of doing it as a gimmick, I think. But really, the value proposition here is for lower income, younger, traditionally excluded consumers.
Okay. So then it becomes important that these consumers understand what it is they're getting themselves into. That's certainly important. Ms. Lee, are you aware of evidence regarding whether or not consumers actually understand the terms of the transaction? I'm referring specifically to BNPL products.
Yes, there's been two different studies recently, one from the Financial Health Network, which said 99% of the consumers who used BNPL products understood the terms and conditions. And recently, this last weekend, Morning Consult did a survey as well, and they found 94% of the consumers that used BNPL products understood the terms and conditions. I think that's a very high mark of people that really understand what these products are about, what their obligations are, and have full understanding of the terms.
So I know there's some people who are concerned that these BNPL companies take advantage of consumers. But let's think about the transaction here. First of all, typically it's zero cost. There's no interest rate paid. The fee that is paid and the income to the BNPL company typically comes from the merchant, who has plenty of incentives to pay that fee. So I guess the risk to the consumer would be if you don't make a payment on time, you could get hit with the late fee. So what do we know about how prevalent late fees are, how many consumers are hit with them, how big a percentage of BNPL companies' income derives from late fees?
So a couple of different things I'll try to unpack there. As far as on the late fees, what we know from, in general, in the industry standard, less than 4% actually incur a late fee. So we have a predominant...
Less than 4% of consumers.
Less than 4% of consumers using a BNPL product incur a late fee. So 90% of those using do not incur. They pay on time, and it is able to manage and fit their budget accordingly. And so that's why you're seeing the increased use of these, is because it's allowing them to fit their budgets. As far as on the derision of how much of the companies derive their revenue from that, around 85 to 87% of companies derive from merchant fees. There are other fees put into there, either a late fee or otherwise, but 87%, 85 to 87% of a BNPL companies come from merchant fees.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.